My nose. Back my nose. Hello. We're going to talk about antifa and why punch a Nazi is stupid. Been saying it straight along. And now here I'm going to read something from Noam Chomsky. Now I don't usually get too excited about Noam Chomsky, but this time he's right on, and he's providing some historical background on why antifa is full of shit. With that, okay, what's going on here? What's trying to make noise? Chomsky is saying Antifa is a major gift to the right. What they do is often wrong in principle and generally self-destructive. Noam Chomsky has criticized the anti-fascist movement and argued its actions are wrong in principle and it is a major gift to the right. The eminent intellectual, who is described as the father of modern linguistics, argued the movement was self-destructive and constituted a tiny faction on the periphery of the left, which is as it's always been. I mean, this is where the Zionists came from, was this tiny fringe element. Um, Antifa, shorthand for anti-fascist organizations, refers to a loose coalition of militant, decentralized grassroots groups which are opposed to the far right. The movement, which was founded in Europe in the 1920s, has dominated headlines in the wake of a white supremacist rally in Charlottesville earlier this month. Neo-Nazis, KKK members, and alt-right supporters clashed with anti-fascists, and a woman was left dead after a car plowed into a crowd of anti-fascist protesters. In the wake of the deadly violence, President Donald Trump has prompted anger for drawing a moral parity between white supremacists and anti-fascists, saying counter-protesters were as violent as the far right and alt-right groups, which included some very fine people like David Duke. Chomsky, a leading voice on the left who is famed for his critique of U.S. foreign policy, neoliberalism, and the mainstream media, has now criticized Antifa. As for Antifa, it's a minuscule fringe on the left, just as its predecessors were, the linguist and political philosopher told the Washington Examiner. It's a major gift to the right, including the militant right, who are exuberant. What they do is often wrong in principle, like blocking talks, and the movement is generally self-destructive, the 88-year-old told the conservative paper. He added, when confrontation shifts to the arena of violence, it's the toughest and most brutal to win. Most brutal who win. Oh, it's the toughest and most brutal who win. And we know who that is. That's quite apart from the opportunity cost, the loss of the opportunity for education, organizing, and serious and constructive activism, which has been going on since the day they whacked John Kennedy in the United States. I mean, this is what me and my peers have stood in solidarity with indigenous people against the machine by nonviolent, prayerful civil disobedience. And Antifa and their tactics, BLM and the rest of them, threaten what we've built over the last 50 years, 54 years. While many only associate the anti-fascist movement with militant direct action, it is worth noting it adopts a wide variety of tactics. This includes union organization, migrant solidarity, public education programs, ousting white supremacists and neo-Nazis to their neighbors and employers, and urging venues to cancel far-right events. Chomsky has previously stated he is against the shutting down of far-right meetings, arguing it is tacitly self-destructive and the emphasis needs to instead be on education. Chomsky, who recently left his post as Institute Professor Emeritus at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology to become a laureate professor at the University of Arizona, has prompted criticism for his assessment of Antifa. Elmer Perry, who has written extensively on fascism and the far right, told The Independent, Chomsky treats the battle against fascism as a battle for moral purity that can be won when the left remain respectful, polite, and deferent. Well, respectful and polite, sure, but not deferent. The fascists have no interest in winning that battle. They don't care about respecting free speech or the right to fair trial. They've openly declared their murderous intent toward people of color and other undesirables, and they'll pursue that goal by any means necessary. In this context, physical resistance is a duty, an act of self-defense, not an unsightly outpost of leftist moral decline. I'm sorry, that's the police's job. Straight up, it is not vigilante justice. What's more, it works. From the Battle of Cable Street to 1936 to similar confrontations in Lewisham and Wood Green in London in 1977, physical resistance has time and again protected local populations from racist violence and prevented the gathering of caucus or fascists from making further inroads into mainstream politics. Well, that's, nonviolent resistance is nonviolent resistance. Chasing them out of the neighborhood with rocks and bottles and baseball bats ain't quite where it's at. Critics on social media argue Chomsky, who is one of the most cited scholars in history, had become less left-wing in his old age, and the remarks meant he had become irrelevant. Asa Wynne Stanley, a journalist, said, "Sad, Chomsky comes close to Trump blaming both sides. Says antifa is a major gift to the right. It is, and they're a fringe. And we in the center, who stood resolutely in the center for all these years, are saying, no, we do not want that tactic in our activism. Plain and simple." And there is a moral parity there that we do not want to bring the progressive left into. We want to keep them out of it. Rather than embracing and protecting and apologizing for Antifa, they need to be shunned just as hard as the alt-right. The anti-fascist movement, which is in favor of popular grassroots opposition to fascism, rather than reliance on the police or state, is not a homogeneous centralized organization. It has a long and varied history which dates back to fighting Mussolini's black shirts in the 1920s and Adolf Hitler's brown shirts in taverns in Munich. A lot of good that did. In the UK, anti-fascists mobilized against black shirts, led by Edward Mosley, the leader of the British Union of Fascists in Cable Street, East London in the 1930s, and many other instances. Chomsky has well, Chomsky's previously warned against conflating the rise of fascism in Europe and the situation in America today. He's also argued the tactics need to be reassessed in the light of the current protocol. Well, hey, we have a big problem with Donald Trump in the White House, for sure. And I've been saying straight along that so long as our rule of law is in place, we're duty bound to keep our the airing of our grievances within the boundaries of the law. Me and mine have stood against Helter Skelter for over 50 years. Please don't ruin it. Thanks for watching. Bye.